Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Intelligent Inbound podcast brought to you by SmartBug Media. I'm your host, Jen Spencer, and today I'm speaking with Rob Giglio, Chief Customer Officer at HubSpot. And if for some reason you haven't heard of HubSpot, HubSpot is a leading CRM platform that provides software and support to help businesses grow better. And as Chief Customer Officer, Rob leads HubSpot's global marketing, sales, customer success, and operations teams. And I got to say, I absolutely love Rob's personal motto: the most worthy deed helps someone else succeed. I grabbed that off your LinkedIn profile, Rob. Bravo and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's only on my LinkedIn profile because that phrase matters a lot to me. If I could have lived my whole younger years with some sort of phrase attached, I would have loved to have had that. It's a phrase
Yeah.
that my dad used to say. Like when I was really young, I can remember him saying it a lot, and it wasn't just about business; it was like about people. And I try to live up to it. It's hard to do, but I really appreciate it.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. I really like it. I was when I saw it, I thought like I don't really have a motto. I've got a couple of sayings that are important to me. You can see behind me that the eye chart, where you might be able to see
I
it's a
love
good
that.
week, to have a good week, right? And then I've got, let's see, where is it? Um, so one of my favorite characters from a novel or now a movie is the character of Miranda Priestley in The Devil Wears Prada. She's a villain, but I think she's misunderstood, and she
Yeah,
is by all means move at a glacial pace. You know how that thrills me, which cracks my team up because
yeah.
the
I
speed that
love
I like
that.
to bring.
I've heard that phrase before. I think it's so awesome.
So maybe one day I'll get my own motto. I absolutely love it. So thanks so much for taking some time to chat with us today.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I love what you do. I'm honored to share thoughts. If they're useful to people, then that's the most worthy deed. Help someone else succeed. So there we go. We can try to live it.
Absolutely. Fulfilling your mission. I love it. Well, this is the Intelligent Inbound podcast. SmartBug is an intelligent inbound marketing agency and a HubSpot Elite partner. So should
Thank you for
share
that
that.
too.
And so when you think about your revenue organization, I'm thinking about your marketing, sales, customer success teams. What does inbound mean to you?
Yeah. Um, there's probably. I mean, I could give you a list really, really long. If I tried to simplify it a little bit, what I would say is inbound sends a signal to our organization that we are delivering relevant information to the market, that we're telling a story that resonates with either prospects or customers, and they're interested in what we have to say. So,
Mhm.
we see it as a signal. Like it, yeah, granted, it is the source of so much of our demand, and it is what we're oriented around. It's a lot of our processes are built in that way. And so I could have said, oh, it's how we go to market. But, I think it's like if you up level it a little bit, it's the response to the signals. It tells us when good inbound is happening, you're resonating. Like you have posted an article that people in general, business people in particular, digital marketers even more specifically, say, yeah, I'm really interested in that. And I would like to figure out how I can do XYZ
Yeah.
in my business as well. And so yeah, like that's maybe a long answer to a short question, but
Yeah.
that's how we think about it.
So it's not just marketing, right? It impacts, it touches on, every point in the customer journey is
For
really what I'm
sure.
hearing from you.
Well, and the other thing I think that oftentimes gets overlooked is the difference between, let's just use a lead as an example, like, and we'll think
Sure.
customer journey, like the difference between a lead that you gain from inbound versus a lead you generate by doing aggressive outbound. The amount of effort, the amount of work, the amount of cost and time, the amount of friction potentially even in the system that exists on the difference between an inbound and an outbound lead is pretty dramatic. And
Mm.
so for businesses, like the most efficient lead to close experience is really from inbound because A, you know what they're interested in. B, they're coming to you saying, this is what I want to learn more about, or these are the products that I need to look for a potential solution for. And now
Mhm.
you're in a helping mode as opposed to just a pure selling mode. Now, keep in mind, I don't think outbound is a bad thing. I just think
Yeah.
when you do it right, it's a good thing. When you do it wrong, it's probably friction filled and people don't like it. So there's a nuance. There's a nuance to outbound that you don't necessarily have with inbound.
Yeah, for sure. And I was actually literally just speaking to someone, a CEO and founder the other day. He said, "Hey, some people tell me I have two options. I can do inbound or I can do demand generation. So which do I do?" And I like wanted to pull my hair out because I'm like, no, this is inbound to me. It's the methodology, it's the way that you function, it's the way that you operate. It's like your the breath, right?
Yeah, right.
And so we, if you live in this world every day, day after day, you think, oh, everyone understands this, they all know this, but that's not necessarily true, right?
No, no, and like
Yeah.
architecturally, I think you could even say that like architecturally, the highest order activity is creating demand. I mean, you
Hmm.
are essentially sparking a catalyst for demand interest, and you're either doing that by inbound, you're doing that by outbound, you're doing that by direct customer connection, you're doing that by classic account-based marketing. Like those are all types of demand creation and ultimately then demand capture motions. And
Hmm.
and so I think understanding whatever, and every company uses a slightly different architecture, different
Sure.
vocabulary. I'm just using this one now. It's pretty common. Um, it's good for your audience. It's good for your partners. Good for my partners to understand like all this is in the name of ultimately helping people, but it's
Hmm.
helping people find answers to challenges, to business problems they face, and offering a solution to those.
Yep. Well, let's
Yeah.
let's actually talk a little bit about challenges and problems that people face. Um, and in your role, I mean, you're able to pull the levers of everything that touches the customer experience, which is great. How do you help prepare your team? All of these integrated, collaborative teams, but that are individual teams, right? How do you prepare them for things like shifts and just changes that are happening in our industry? Because we joked about my Miranda Priestley quote about moving at a glacial pace, but in our space, things move really fast.
Yeah.
And something that's working one day might not be working the next. So what do you go about as an executive, as a leader that infuses, inbound as a methodology, as a way of life, but along with all of the shifts and changes that are happening in the marketing, sales, and customer success space?
Yeah. Well, I would tell you I have my answer to this is unfair, and it's an unfair situation I find
Okay.
myself in. I
Yeah.
am incredibly thankful and lucky to be in this situation. I have a team, because you've worked with HubSpot. I
Hmm.
have a team that is world class, like to the function, to the person, to the subgroup, incredible, incredible professionals. Um, so at some level, the answer to your question is I try to get out of the way as much as possible and let them do what they're already
Sure.
really good at, uh, responsively to the market. So that's the first and most foundational way I think about it. The second way is I try to make sure we prioritize ourselves and not try to do too much. If we try to do too much, we try to scramble and try to solve every single problem. We have a tendency to miss stuff that's right in front of us on the big things. So part of that relates to
Mm.
like prioritizing what matters most. And then maybe the third way is I try to make sure that we're paying very close attention to the signals we're getting from our prospects and from our customers, and we're not ignoring them. And so, what that looks like is a very data instrumented experience where we're reading signals through the entire customer journey. I love that you used that word before, that we're paying really close attention to what are prospects and customers telling us. So, in other words, um, if I'll just use a sort of blunt instrument, if our traffic is going down and we're doing all the same things that we did last month, we have to pause and ask ourselves why. Like there's a kind of
Right.
chunky data element. We have to dig into it and understand it. The great thing is like that's chunky and sort of generic. Like we would not worry about macro traffic. What you're actually looking for is traffic to certain product pages, traffic from certain sources to certain product pages, from certain countries, from certain customer types. And that gives you the kind of like detail and granularity that you need to understand where in the customer journey are you succeeding and where are you failing. And I think the answer to like how do you respond to these kinds of times, if you have the right instrumentation and you're paying close attention to trends, you're going to see shifts. You might not understand them. You might not know what,
Right.
as an example, like why is my close rate? So I'm looking at inbound, got a lot of good inbound, but my close rate is really like off. So then I ask the question, like, is it about pricing? Oh, I'm still my close rate on lower price deals, and I'm making this up. This is not real, so don't read anything into this. But
Right,
if my
right.
close rate on low price deals is just as high as it's always been, but my close rate on high price deals is slowed down, okay, now I can actually like think about what that might mean. Are we in some kind of economic time that customers are being more thoughtful about larger purchases? And I can decide how to react. And when I say I really mean my organization can decide how to react.
Sure,
So
sure.
that's how we think about it. That's
Yeah.
granularity, a lot of data, a lot of autonomy in the organization to understand what they're gathering from the signals.
So looking, you're really like doing a lot of internal analysis, and that's helping provide you with some some insights into what might be happening outside of the organization. What about external factors? And maybe we can actually just talk about what's going on right now. This summer, even with our current state of our economy, every day I'm logging into LinkedIn or logging onto Twitter, right, um, seeing economic concerns, fears, worries, rising costs in especially here in the US market, inflation. you know I guess, what are some of the major threats, or even maybe you see them as opportunities that you foresee for your business, with this current state?
Yeah. Um, I'm not an economist, so keep in mind I'm sharing with you my opinion based on working with my team at HubSpot, based on working in a bunch of different economic climates over the course of my career, and so I'm just like anybody else trying to like read the tea leaves. So,
Yeah.
granted, you strip away any expertise that I have and just take maybe my opinion. My opinion is that what we suffer now is a trust thing. And I'm not articulating this like awesome, like a good economist would or a good social scientist would, but from what I'm seeing and feeling and interpreting, we have a trust dynamic. And it plays in two ways. One of them is I think there's a lack of trust on the part of consumers and businesses about what the future holds.
Hmm.
They can't trust what's going to happen. They can't trust that tomorrow will be like yesterday. And because of that lack of trust, it's causing a sort of tightening of activity, a pause, a concern, a wait, a let me look twice, let me second guess.
Yeah.
And that lack of trust uh, is only going to be like sort of worked through with time. It's going to take time for people to start to trust that the world hasn't changed too terribly dramatically, and that some kind of core people, buyer, business, political uh, methodologies will just continue. That basic behaviors are somewhat sustainable, not entirely, but somewhat sustainable, and that's just going to take a little bit of that's going to take time to earn back the trust. So that's part one. The other side
Hmm.
of that trust dynamic, which I think gets to the question, really kind of the heart of the question, which is like what do you do in a time like this? It gets back to the need for people in general, buyers in particular, marketers specifically, salespeople specifically, to do things to earn trust. What it says is that trust is way more important than it's ever been. If there's already a lack of trust, you have a higher hurdle to get over. So customers aren't going to trust when you say, here's how our product works. They're going to want to see a demo. They want to know that it actually works. They want
Yeah.
to talk to other customers to prove that what you're saying is true. I think it also means that at some level, known brands with reputation, maybe have an advantage over brands
Hmm.
that have a low reputation. So what does that mean if you're a new brand? It means you're going to need to get out and back to this inbound notion. You're going to need to start creating content that validates what is your point of view? How does your product work? Show me a demo. Make the case that your product is better than other products. So it for big brands, maybe you get a little bit of a tailwind. For small brands, you can earn it, but it's going to take a little more
Hmm.
work. And then I think just ultimately, it's incumbent on the part of the company who is doing business with other companies that you have to just continue to earn trust consistently.
Yeah.
It's no way around it. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Oh,
Long
go
answer,
ahead.
short question.
No, I really like your perspective. And I think, for me, I was, having this conversation on a regular basis and meeting with my team. And the way I described the way I felt, again, not an economist, just a marketer turned marketing agency CEO, um, is there's a collective holding of breath. And yet at the same time, I also recognize as a consumer, I'm putting so much more value in authenticity. And we've been talking about authenticity in marketing and sales for many years now. And it's times like this, right? It's these shifts in the market where it all kind of comes to a head. And if you've been practicing that authenticity, right? If you've been practicing delivering value, practicing keeping your customer as your North Star, then I think you fare easier, right? When things become a little bit more challenging. So I think, you mentioned, very well-known brands, and yes, but not everyone has those like Coca-Cola dollars or the HubSpot dollars or what have
Yeah.
you, to build that
By the
reputation.
way,
But
HubSpot dollars compared to Coca-Cola
I
dollars are not on the same spectrum, but thank you for saying that.
Yes, yes. Thank you for correcting me. For like
Well,
a smaller business, they might see you the same way, but that's also because HubSpot invested so heavily in building a community, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
building evangelism, and so you're able to offset it ad spend, but you have an actually just this force of nature of people who have grown up using your product.
you're right. Yeah, you're right. That is, I mean, that's just a natural advantage that you get. And I guess if anything, maybe it speaks to like, hopefully there are some smaller company CEOs, founders, marketers who are listening. It can be done. I mean, HubSpot
Oh
was
yeah.
a small company at one time, and they built this trust relationship through content, consistency, delivering what, being trustworthy in the ways that you described and being authentic.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, we
There's
see it.
something I read this years ago. So again, you have to like, you're somebody you'll have to look it up to kind of validate it. But the thing that I remember reading is that during tough economic times, when really like a recession kind of time period, consumers tend to gravitate to brand names, and oftentimes brand names are more expensive than private label or non regional brands as opposed to national brands, and it's so counterintuitive. You say, well, why, money's tight.
Hmm.
Why would people do that? And typically the answer is because of a trust that they it's a stretch in terms of spend, but they gravitate to the national brand because they trust that, well, I know at least that brand is thought of as being consistent with whatever they say. And so it might be more expensive, I might buy less of it, but I'm going to feel like I made a good purchase when I did it. And so in the grocery stores, brand names really do well in those sort of more challenging economic times. And I think if you took that and
Yeah.
passed it as a lesson to us as marketers right now, we can't all be national names, we can't all be big brand names, but we can try to do some of the same things that they do.
We certainly can. Um, I don't want to lead you with this question, but I'm wondering if there's what you feel's happened in the market, and let's just say we can say all of the last 10 years, even, right? Go back even further, but that you think has been something, a shift, not related to marketing and sales, but just a shift in our business that's been most influential, maybe something positive or something negative, like a big change that you think,
Yeah.
has recently shifted the trajectory of our business.
Well, I mean, as a digital person, digital marketer in particular, like I would be crazy if I skipped digital transformation as a headline.
Yeah.
Um, when you think about the range of things that, and it's like I have a hard time even like putting it in a very small box, but digital, digital experiences, Um, I mean, they're just like, it's a dramatic shift. I think of like the company that I used to work at DocuSign. We think about e-signatures, like that changed dramatically how people
Yeah.
sign things on the go or sign things in a remote way. Um, when I think of HubSpot and managing customer information, like it's all in one place. It can be moved around. You can use it to create experiences. You can create web pages that are, specific to users. Like you're going on a flight and you don't have to have that paper ticket that you had to go to a travel agent to get to
Yeah.
print out in their office. Like the number of things are just like so vast. I couldn't possibly name them all. But I would say in the 10-year period, digital transformation has to be, for me, a major league, like inflection, change point. It created tons of opportunity. It created a lot of jobs. Um, it created a lot of really great experiences. Like I like air travel because of that digital connection. I can watch movies from one plane ride to the next off my phone. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Um, I think though, like a logical question is, well, what are some of the things that came along with that? And we have recently done some research, and it's interesting because so many companies were trying to digitally transform themselves. They just started throwing technology at these opportunities without a lot of consideration architecturally or experientially how it was going to work. And so a
Mm.
lot of companies, a lot of small companies, a lot of large companies just bought a bunch of different tools. And in our business, we call them point products. They bought a lot of point
Mm-hmm.
products. And now what we see in our research is they're now frustrated. They're incredibly frustrated. They bought all these things. They don't talk to each other. They can't create seamless experiences. Their data lives in lots of different places. It's this we're sort of trying to get our heads around where this is going, but it's this like notion of being disconnected when you have all these tools that should be connecting. You should be more connected to your customers than you are. You should be more connected to your employees than you are. You should be more connected from a like experiential standpoint than you are, and that's a big challenge. And I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe this is the perfect time to solve that. Maybe now, because we're all being more thoughtful about where we spend our money, now is a good time to say, hold up, let's think about what technologies we bought, and do we need 8 tools to do what one could do? Like that's an interesting question.
Right. Right. No, I can echo that. Like that's what we are definitely seeing as well. And I think, it's a lot of it is individuals' consumer experiences all kind of shifting. And this has been happening for quite some time now, but shifting our expectations for the way we want to work, the way we want to collaborate, the like tools we want to use in our business, and that customer and even our end users kind of customer expectation. And it's actually this digital transformation. It's been so ingrained. It's changed how we operate. You're talking about like getting on a plane, watching movies, everything. People have those expectations for technology and the way that technology is going to help support them in their day-to-day life. And that has not, that includes business. And yet we still see there are still businesses out there that have been holding back. Although I will say, that with the pandemic, COVID-19 did kind of shift things for a lot of people, where they realized, shoot, I really better get on board with this. But we know there are different industries that are more laggard than others, and some that are always going to be kind of chomping at the bit to do what's the most innovative next step.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I just 2 thoughts on that real quick.
Sure.
One of them sounds like a plug, and maybe it is. I'm taking the opportunity to,
Go for
to
it.
say, and I know you're going to be there, so it's really a plug for you too. Like HubSpot's Inbound that we're hosting in September, much of our focus is going to be on this topic. And so I'm not going to go
Mm,
like super deep into the topic. I would invite people to tune in online or to actually come to Inbound and hear our point of view on this connection point, and and we'll share some of like our findings and kind of what we think is important for a next step. But I use like, if somebody's listening and they're like, I don't know, Rob, like what could be so bad about lots of different systems? I mean, a great example is if you have your data in a CRM and it's not connected to the marketing tools you use, it's not sharing common data. Your sales team is sending an email to a prospect that says ABC. Your marketing team is sending an email to the same prospect that says XYZ, And now
Yeah.
that customer is super confused. You want to talk about breaking down trust? That's how to do it. So anyway, I would just say
Yeah.
those are some small examples. You probably, Jen, I bet you could come up with like 50 different examples where
Yeah.
these different technologies not put together properly create real problems.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to ask you a totally separate question. So
Okay.
kind of gonna tap into a little bit of your entrepreneurial spirit. And let's say you're starting a new company. You know, you've got an idea and you go to form that, you got your product, service, whatever it is. What's your first sales motion? We've talked about inbound, you mentioned outbound, you're like, I'm not against outbound, right? If it's done well. But what's that first sales motion? Is it inbound? Is it outbound? And why? Like what
Well,
kind of
I'll tell
strategy are
you,
you going to use?
it would be so predicated on what product I'm selling. Like
Okay,
it would be
fair.
really
Yeah.
predicated on what product I'm selling. But let's just for the sake of like, if I could sell anything, I invented
Mhm.
anything, I would love for it to be a digital product. So let's just pretend it's a digital product, a digital service, something you can use online. My first sales motion would be inbound. That's the marketing to sales. And I would be using, in today's terms, we always like to call it PLG, product led growth. In the old days, it was
Mhm.
try and buy. We don't care what you call it. It's basically come in and experience this product that I've told you about that I think is going to help you. I want to make you wildly successful. It puts responsibility on my shoulders as the entrepreneur to make an amazing product experience, to make it so easy to use the first time you engage with it, that you as a prospect say, this could really help me. It meets this need. And now I'm willing to pay you for it. And
Mhm.
that would be that would be my very first motion. It would be oriented around inbound. It would be oriented around a try then buy motion. And sometimes even non-digital products can be good try buy. You can
Mhm.
incentivize someone to engage with you to hear. Let's say you're selling a consulting service. Well, let's get on the phone and let me tell you how I approach these things. That's a free
Yeah.
trial at some level because I'm going to talk to you about your business opportunity, and then I'm going to convert it on the back end. I'm not looking for you to give me your money up front, especially right now, because trust and authenticity is so important. What better way than to give people access to your product? There was an ad. I used to love this ad. Uh, Saab did this ad, and I don't remember the exact statistics, so I'll probably mess it up. But they basically said more more Saab buyer. Wait, no, how did it go? More people that buy Saabs test drove a Saab first. And I'm messing this up, but the point was
Yeah.
Saab was the kind of car that if you tried it, you were gonna buy it. And that was their implication. And it was
Hmm.
awesome because what they were saying is we stand behind our car so thoroughly that if you drive it in a test drive mode, you're gonna want to buy it. And
Mhm.
that's amazing. In consumer packaged goods, we used to always say when I worked at Procter and Gamble, we used to always say like if you have a winning product, the best thing you can do is let a consumer try it first for free. So that's why you do samples and tastings and things like
Mhm.
that. If you have a product that's like sort of marginal or average, well then you better discount it. So, that's a
Yeah.
long answer to
Yeah.
your question. Yeah, I would love to have a great digital product that I could move through a try then buy motion.
Do you think you need a lot of patience for that? Do you think you need to take some time? Um,
I don't know. I think you need a winning product, and you
mhm.
need to accelerate your funnel. You need a way to
Mhm.
accelerate your funnel to the right audience because that's the thing is you can't, in that kind of motion, you can't just wait for the whole world to try to figure you out. You have to actually
Mhm.
become very specific about your target audience, and you got to go
Mhm.
directly to them. The nice thing is you can do
Mhm.
that digitally easier than you can do it offline.
Mhm.
Um, I would be willing to bet that. I mean, let's look at some of the streaming services that have started more recently, like up and comers, like you'd say, like Disney Plus,
Mhm.
like their ramp time compared to what it took, Netflix, like their
Yeah.
ramp time was rapid. And that's because they had a digital experience. Netflix had a mailed experience. They were mailing the
Right.
DVDs. Um, yeah, I think you can get to people. You can have an offer that lands with them. They have a great product proposition. It's easy to get in and try.
Mhm.
I like that one.
Yeah, it is a shift though for a lot of software companies, a lot of SaaS companies, because I grew up in the SaaS sales and marketing world um, of selling a product before the product exists,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I know I'm not the only one. Someone else out there, right,
There's a,
listening out there,
yeah.
right? How
Well, there's
many
a reason
demos?
that we all would say like fake it till you make it. Like those phrases come out of somewhere.
Right? I demoed software that was really just envision, app, clickable screens. And
Yep.
when you do that, it's you can maybe drive some demand through inbound, but it's definitely not the same. And so there are a lot of companies that did get started that way and grew that way, and a lot of people made a lot of money, but that playbook. Given like our conversations about trust and authenticity, that playbook is broken,
Yeah.
right, for a lot of a
Yeah, I
lot of those
agree.
businesses.
I agree. I think, sometimes you see like products in beta and what they'll do is provide a snippet of code that does a certain
Hmm.
experience, or they'll do, sort of dynamic demo kind of thing, and
Hmm.
they'll build interest. And then they'll pay off that interest when they actually launch.
Yeah.
That one, that requires some trust on the part of the customer, and you have to trust as a business team, like, okay, this product's going to actually pay off.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's far better if you have a working version. You're
Yeah.
past
Yeah,
beta.
for sure. So let's go back to your actual role, right? We were in kind of our dreamland of you're going to create some magical, new product. But in your role today, again, reminding everyone you're leading marketing, sales, customer success, and operations, right?
Revenue
Um,
operations. Yeah.
revenue ops. Yep. So you can only view one dashboard every morning. You got one thing that you're looking at while you're drinking your coffee in the morning, making an assumption. Maybe it's something else. But what's on that dashboard? What do you need to see
Yeah.
every day that tells you, okay, things are healthy, things are on track?
So, our team is working on such a dashboard. We're not done. So to
Okay.
be, again, back to being fully transparent, we're working on it. So it's not something that I get to look at today. It's something that our team is excited about having. What it will have is a view of our what we're calling CCOM, customer centric operating model, and it will be a visual representation of our customer journey.
Mm.
From, you always think about, HubSpot talking about engaging, delighting, right? That's our flywheel
Mm-hmm.
methodology.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine taking our flywheel and just detailing it with customer journey steps. So the flywheel doesn't go away; it's still the flywheel. We're still attracting, we're still engaging, and we're still delighting, but we're putting a little granularity between what does it mean to engage. Well, we've got to create awareness. Engagement is we've got to create some sort of like behavior, a traffic, a trial, a sign up, a starter version. We're then going to engage these customers after we've attracted them, and this engagement might look like a sales presentation, might be a demo, and then they're going to get the product and they're going to begin using it. And this is the delight phase. And I want to know how the product usage is going. What's the activation rate? What's the seat count? What's the depth of feature use? What's the success? Like, does our customer
Yeah.
feel great about using our product? And then what's the likelihood of renewal and opportunity related to that? So the ultimate dashboard for me allows me to see in macro how customers are moving through our customer journey. Just to kind of make it real for people as they're listening to this and they're thinking like, what is this guy talking about? Like oftentimes in marketing, we talk about a funnel. We'd say
Mm-hmm.
there's the top of funnel activity, there's the middle of funnel activity, and
Yeah.
then the bottom of the funnel activity. Just put the funnel horizontal. It doesn't go top to bottom, it goes left to right. And think about the same set of steps and ask yourself as a business owner, like, what could I measure today? Like, what could I actually get a handle
Yeah.
on so I could see these customers moving through my journey? And so for me, every morning, that's what I'd love to be able to use as a dashboard. I'd love to be able to click in. In an ideal world, I get all the way down to an individual customer in an individual country who just bought yesterday. And I'm curious now on day two, how many people are using the product that we just sold them? And
Mm-hmm.
if possible, like, how happy are they? Can I get some kind of
Yeah.
NPS view on their satisfaction? Like, that'd be amazing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Well, we'll have to stay in touch. to learn more about
We
this
will.
dashboard. We are doing a full flywheel audit of our own business right now and looking at every interaction, every point of friction or force that we have in our organization, both internal and external, and thinking about the customer journey that way. Haven't got quite yet to dashboarding that, but these things have been living sort of in silos or maybe peripherally. Like we have one between like marketing, sales, sales, customer success, finance, but not like full organization,
Yeah.
internal,
I
external.
think
And
that's
I think it's
awesome.
important,
Really
and
important.
I mean, and it's something, that is not just a one-time thing, right? It's something like as your business grows and changes and evolves, like you have to kind of revisit it. Um,
For
so
sure. And you may find as a business you are attracting different customers. And
yeah,
so what was working when you had a certain customer profile may not work 5 years later when you have a different customer profile. And if you're not staying fresh with that, your connection between your functions looks great, but your connection with the customer is disconnected. And that's, ultimately just as bad.
well, I can appreciate just how data driven you are and what tools I know you've got at your disposal using HubSpot as your the heartbeat of your organization. But when you're communicating externally with external stakeholders, I think about my board, right? And I'm communicating with my board. There are the business metrics, there are the KPIs that I'm looking at and that my team is reporting on up to me in our organization. But that's a lot of information, and if you only could share three, key business metrics with like a board, right?
Yeah.
People who are external to the organization to let them know how things are going. What would you say those three metrics would be?
Yeah. So just to clarify, like we're going to remove the financial metrics. So like sales is off the
Right.
list and cost of sales is off the list. Okay. So we're just looking at like diagnostics. So and that's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
way we talk about it. Like we've got like financial metrics and then diagnostics. And our diagnostics for us, and it's actually nice that you said three, because the fact you said three, it anchors me down into this flywheel notion where
Yeah.
it's attract, engage, and delight. And what I
Mm-hmm.
would look for is what's the number one proxy metric for I'm doing a great job of attracting?
Mm-hmm.
What's the I'm doing a great job of engaging? And what is the I'm doing an amazing job of delighting?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, in our business, the one that I care about most is the delighting one. And the reason is because in
Hmm.
a business like ours, we actually have more customers in our base than we will acquire new in a year. And I think for most businesses,
Yeah.
that's kind of the case. Like what you care most about are the people you currently have. You have to go get new ones, but really the ones you cannot lose sight of are the ones you already have. So for me, delight would be the North Star metric. And for me, the delight metric would be something, and I'm just proxying this, something related to product usage, the
Hmm.
intensity and success of product usage. Back, kind of stepping back into the engage step, that's like a sales kind of metric. For
Yeah.
me, I'd probably use close rate. Like I'd probably use
Okay.
something related to the success of getting a customer interested and then actually creating a relationship with them where they want to buy the product for money. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
probably related to close rate. And then I'm going to go back to the attract phase, which is kind of the how are we bringing people in. That one's a tricky one because there's so many really good indicators that tell us whether we're doing a good job or not. I think I would go with some traffic metric. And that
Hmm.
one's like a little less granular than I would like to have, but you told me I could only have three. So
You can
I would
only
go
have
with
three.
something
Yeah.
related to traffic because traffic is telling me whether I'm effective at both bringing people in proactively as well as bringing people in passively in a sort of like more content driven inbound motion. So
Hmm.
traffic for the attract, close rate for the engage, product usage and related to satisfaction in the delight. I would want way more than that, by the way, but those
Yes.
are my three.
Yes. Well, I love it. Well, no, let's say after you skip three, they've zoned out. They moved on to the next thing, right? This is
Totally. We have
um,
you know what? We have an awesome board though. They'd probably ask me for 50.
probably. Well, HubSpot's such a data-driven organization. I'm sure they're accustomed to it too, right?
It's true.
Um,
It's true.
well, Let's dream a little bit, and I want you to think about your marketing team in particular, because so many of our audience, they're focused predominantly on marketing, although everything else we've talked about is very, very relevant. So if you pretend for a second, this is hard for me to do, but pretend that time and money are not an issue at all, right? Where would you ask your marketing team to invest their next kind of group of dollars in?
Wow. Well, the second you say that money is just like not even a thing,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to like big advertising. I'm going back to like what you might consider old school methodologies. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but let me tell you why I picked that. Um, I picked that because I'm assuming I've got a good product. So back to
Hmm.
this point about like, you have to have a good product or you don't want to like get a trial. I'm assuming I have a good product, and I'm assuming there's a basic way, it might not be perfect, but there's a way for people to experience it. Those are in my assumption set.
Okay.
And the reason I jumped all the way to advertising is that's about expanding the funnel and telling the story and creating awareness at levels that I couldn't do any other possible way.
Hmm.
And and the reason that we have to like caveat it by saying money is no object is that's not what I would do if you said I'm looking for really high ROI. That's not what I
Right.
would do if you said you only have a certain amount of money. It's a sort of frivolous kind of choice. But I think it's an interesting because you test the boundaries when you say something's
Hmm.
frivolous. And the boundaries that I'm testing are, can I create amazing awareness, interest, and engagement by spending all that money on advertising? And I don't just mean linear TV. I would do linear TV. I would do outdoor. I would do
Yeah.
billboards. I would do T-shirts. Like I would
Yeah.
blanket the world with awareness for whatever my thing is. Um, Granted, money is an object, timing is an issue, so
Yeah, of
that's why we
course.
don't do that.
Of course. Well, and you to kind of like circle back on what the things we've talked about today. You also have a product that people can try. You have a free product, right? That
Yeah,
people can get in and they can start to experience. And so you have that benefit, right? Because you're not advertising something that then costs somebody millions of dollars right out of the gate
exactly.
before they get any value from it.
And imagine money was no object and I could actually tell that story.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. Like tell
Yeah.
it from the rooftops.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe one day.
One day when money is no object, we will.
Yeah, you know.
For now, we focus on high ROI, great
Yeah.
return activity. We have, you've probably seen it. We have begun doing some more traditional television advertising, and we're
Yeah.
really pleased with that so far. So you may
Yeah.
see more of that from us in the future,
Yeah.
but we have to do it carefully, thoughtfully.
Yeah.
The thing I don't love about up funnel advertising in general is it's super hard to be targeted,
Yeah.
and ultimately that's kind of our challenge is being targeted enough with the right message is
Hmm.
really hard in those forms.
Well, I am personally waiting for, and I keep like thinking, is it happening yet? For targeting through streaming services, right? So that they know. Sometimes I'm watching a show, I'm like, they know it's me, just
They
like
actually do. Wait no
they know.
longer.
They
Well,
know.
think about it this way. Most of those streaming services have a sign up, and if they have a sign up,
Right.
they're assigned to a person, and that person often links back to some other data source. And so if you're known, you're targetable. So there are services that can target on streaming. There are services that can target on your television. I mean,
Yeah.
you could go pretty granular down to the person if you really were willing to spend the money. But again, that's
But
where the kind of trade-offs happen
right.
is it worth it to spend the money to do it?
Right. Well, I mean, I know that we can target by kind of certain audience demographics. I was wondering about do if I'm watching a TV show and my husband's streaming the same show upstairs, do we see different ads?
It depends on whose
Right.
account ID you're on.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna pull myself back from this rabbit
Yeah,
hole
no,
that I
it's like
just
it's
jumped
actually kind
into.
of creepy if you go down that rabbit hole, like
Yeah.
how targetable you kind of are actually. It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy. It's pretty
But we
crazy.
see it everywhere else on every other
You do.
platform.
I mean, think
So
about like
yeah.
I always when I talk to friends about this, like in the industry, I always like remind them. I go, hey, well, before you totally freak out, just remember the last time you checked out at a grocery store and they spit out a long receipt with like
Yeah.
all these things that you're probably going to buy the next time you come back to the store. It's like
Yeah.
they're keeping track of what you're buying at the grocery store in
Yeah.
a database, so that the next time you shop, they're going to give you a coupon for buying it again. And
Yeah.
it might not have been what you bought on this particular shopping visit.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
yeah.
true.
I personally like that kind of customization. I know
Hmm.
I mean, this is a whole topic for another podcast, but
Yeah.
I know it's fraught with a lot of privacy dynamics. And I think it's
Hmm.
very personal. Like people have different personal
Yeah.
choices. And I think ultimately you have to be able to exercise your personal choice and your personal right as opposed to just do anything. But for me personally, I like it. Like
Yeah.
I don't mind getting coupons for, I don't know, some kind of string cheese or something.
Whatever's relevant, as long as it's
Yeah.
relevant, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
So let's I have one more question for you, and maybe we'll have a little bit of a callback to other conversations we had, but um, kind of a final takeaway for our audience. What do you think is the most important thing for marketers to do right now?
Simplify your message, like strip out all the noise, strip out all the jargon, remove buzzwords, like take away clutter. I think there's, as I mentioned before, I think there's two things that are really playing big time with consumers and with businesses as they think about buying. One of them is people are overwhelmed by the amount of stimuli, right? Like we're just like
Mhm.
there's so much stimuli. As much as I love digital transformation, it creates the opportunity to ingest a lot of information in the form of content and other things. That makes it hard for people. Their brains are like tapped. So we as marketers have to simplify the message, make it more clear. Like think about the last homepage you were on for a tech company. Like it
Mhm.
sounds like blah 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 blah. Like it's you we all have to
Yeah.
simplify our message in all of our customer touch points. That's one. Two, because it relates to the second point, it's a way to build trust. We have
Yeah.
to right now focus on building trust. So it's simplify the message, emphasize trust. I think if we do those things effectively in the next 18 months, those that do that well are going to weather the storm quite well. Those that don't, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding
Yeah.
because you're telling a confusing message in a cautious market, um, and you're not emphasizing the reason why somebody should actually part with money at a time when that's the last thing they want to do.
Yeah. Very, very wise words. Rob, thank you so much for joining me today. It was definitely a pleasure. And I know I'm sure you'll be very busy, but I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting you in person at Inbound
Yeah,
in September.
let's do it for sure, for sure. I appreciate the
Perfect.
time. I love your podcast. I hope your listeners and maybe your YouTube viewers find it like super helpful.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for listening and watching. Please join us next week for another episode of the Intelligent Inbound podcast. You'll meet another industry expert who, like Rob, leads an organization deeply rooted in intelligent inbound marketing. And if you learned something today, please pay it forward by rating and reviewing us on your podcast listening platform of choice. Make it a great day, everyone.